What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know so I can hold you.
Our top 5 corners were also very similar.
For Will Johnson, right? He's been pretty productive on the ball as well, you would think. But then you look at the stats, and he has the same number of interceptions, the same number of pass breakups as Shavon Revel, but he played in double the amount of games this past season. And he had a lower force and completion percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had double the missed tackle rate. Will Johnson was one of the worst of the top cornerbacks when it comes to missed tackles. That's a concern. He's fast, right? I think he's faster than his, like 4.4 speed or whatever he was officially timed at would say. Just watching him play, it looks like he's quicker than that. But the tackling does worry me, and at times the ball production can as well. I think he's a great talent. To me, he's an early day 2 guy. I don't feel good putting him in the same
and
tier.
That's not
as
even off the
Revel
injury.
And Barron.
It's not even off the injury.
Yeah, that's not even injury, right? I tend not to look too far into a lot of the injuries here for me.
Medicine is just so good nowadays.
Back. Yeah, I mean, injuries are a part of the game. People bounce back. It happens, right? But for me, the lack of ball production this past year did worry me. And you can't bring up teams just don't throw to him. Teams did throw at him. Texas threw at him, right? You want to bring up the same thing about Shavon Revel? I mean, you got to imagine how much easier it has to be to not throw at Shavon Revel when you're playing it against East Carolina. He's not out there with a bunch of other 4 and 5 stars at East Carolina. No disrespect to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think that, with Michigan, maybe it's a little bit difficult. And still, Revel had the same amount of production in half the amount of games. And Will Johnson struggles as a tackler. That's concerning, right? I'm not saying that he's a bad prospect, but he does have his drawbacks.
Kind of like was what we talked about with like the missing tackles a little bit. And there is something to say when you don't target one side of the field because of a player. And yes, they did target Will Johnson. Again, like Lee said, look at the Texas game, but a good couple of times, like last year when they won that national championship, people did not want to throw Will Johnson's side.
Yep.
I think that has something to say for a player. Again, I like him in zone coverage. I think he just needs to work a bit more on the tackling and like boost up those numbers of those missed tackling rates. But other than that, gets healthy, works on that. I think he can be a top corner easily.
The things that he used to do to Marvin Harrison Jr., having the battles that he had, and I think is just still on top of everybody's mind when you mention him, right? And it can't go understated. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a first wide receiver in last year's draft, and we understand the talent that he was. He made people absolutely look silly, but Will Johnson was always consistent. Especially last year when they had their battle, against each other. Will Johnson's a talented dude, just like Khalid said. I can't put him higher because of his tackling issues, and I don't think that he is consistent from man to zone as he should be, like these other corners can be. I don't know if you just stick him in man to man and that's his only responsibility. Maybe he might be good. If you stick him in zone and that's his only responsibility, he might thrive there. But as far as switching off in different coverages, I just seen way too many inconsistencies.
Kind of like we mentioned, I do think he'll probably go like top 3, at worst maybe like top 5. But you kind of look at it of the. How much yes, he was in the right position, like Khalid said, for like those hook interceptions, but how much of it also was just, either a bad throw. Well, not even talking about like bad throws. We won't even do that because that's I'm not trying to discredit him. Man won the Heisman and everything, so I'm not trying to discredit him. But very good corner. I think he's a better corner than he is a receiver. Yeah, I just with Travis Hunter, I think he's very, very fluid, but there have been times, obviously where he has gotten beaten, and it's just the fact that either the quarterback didn't throw well or just had not safety help, but it was just a bad throw by the quarterback. Obviously, you can say that for every cornerback here. Again, this is not disrespecting Hunter. I still think top 5, top 3 pick. And again, I like him better at corner than I do at receiver.
There's no disrespect to Travis Hunter. I agree with a lot of the points that Soares said, but I also think that if we saw Travis Hunter at 100% at corner, he might be higher on everybody's list here.
Absolutely.
So I think he's super talented. We've been saying it all year. Do not put this man at wide receiver because I think he's just an okay wide receiver. I think LeJohntay Wester is still the best wide receiver that was there. I know Jimmy Horn and Will Shepherd were there as well, but those guys made it a lot easier on Travis when he got to the offensive side of the ball. Can I say that on the defensive side of the ball? I can't really say that. But Travis Hunter's ball skills and his vision at corner are probably the most impressive thing. We've obviously seen him go against 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗎 and 𝙁𝙤𝙀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 McMillan. He's not as physical as the rest of these guys, even though he tries. But I think what the best way to beat a Travis Hunter is to have a combination of speed and size like 𝙁𝙁𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 McMillan has, and you can completely take him out the game. I would love to see a matchup between him and A.J. Brown. I don't think it would go well in the NFL. And we're eventually going to see that matchup happen as long as he stays in the league long enough. I think we're going to be able to see that matchup and then really see exactly where Travis Hunter's talent really does lie.
4 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, and a forced fumble, 14.3% missed tackle rate. What Travis Hunter brings is he's probably the most athletic of this group, right? In terms of pure athleticism and football IQ. I mean, he makes a lot of great plays in zone coverage, whether it's in like a hook curl assignment or even just in like a hard flat. He is quite excellent at baiting quarterbacks. They think that he's either dropping back or coming down, and so they make a throw, and in reality he knows exactly where you're going with the football, and he breaks on it, makes a play. He's great at that. What I am concerned about, though, is the level of physicality that he is going to face in the league. You're not only going to face a lot of guys who are bigger than he is in terms of, his height and his weight, but guys who just have a lot more functional strength. Travis Hunter, as good of an athlete as he is, when you look at him, he looks like a wide receiver more than a corner, just in terms of his stature, right? His build. And it does worry me just a little bit, having seen him go against some guys like 𝙁𝙁𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 had their way against Travis Hunter in Colorado. So that does concern me, but it's not enough of a concern where I'm gonna drop him on my top 5 or anything. I think the athleticism.
Cobee Bryant, I've been raving about this for years. The drop off, the lack of hype or talk, not even hype, but the lack of talk has just been insane.
Where other people are starting to steal our takes when we said it first.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, we've seen him for and exactly, and now it's like ramping back up again, and it's just like there should have never been a ramping up point. It should have always been there. But we've seen Cobee Bryant against Travis Hunter when he was wide receiver. We've seen him up against some of these big stud wide receivers. We've seen him. How many film studies has this dude Cobee Bryant been in? And every single time we're like, why is this dude not getting talked about more?
They are a great team at defensive back to measure your wide receiver up against, and you guys see that trend.
What we always say with Cobee Bryant and Mello Dotson there. Yeah. I just with how we've seen it, and Cobee Bryant's like. He looks smaller on film. I think he's like 6'2", but this dude's gone up against like 6'6", 6'7" wide receivers, and he's been able to stay with them stride for stride, and it's just
hell yeah.
I think the skill set of Cobee Bryant is up there. Travis Hunter,
Cobee Bryant again. All of us have been saying this. We love Cobee. It's almost like there's so many positive things about his game that it's hard to find a negative, and that's disrespectful to put him at number 3 saying that. But I think he's one of those there's always a gatekeeper on our list, right? Like a measuring stick for how talented guys can be.
How talented receivers are, yeah.
And when I make my top 5, I try to find, is Travis Hunter better than Cobee? No. Is Will Johnson better than Cobee to me? No. Cobee Bryant is consistently one of the better corners in the league year after year. Played at Kansas his whole career. I love the fact that he stayed loyal to his school. just like I did with Tedero and McMillan, even though, to be honest, they're both losers. I mean, it just is what it is. Like, not as a person, they're not losers, but their school are just losing programs. Like Arizona and Kansas are. Kansas was on, Lance Leopold was on a higher trajectory than they were, and could have won a lot more games. Those one-loss scores this year really killed them. But you are what your record says you are at the end of the day, and apparently he was a part of a losing program. But I believe Cobee could have went to pretty much any school in the country if he would have answered the transfer portal. I think we're looking at the spring portal period right now, and we're seeing a lot of guys go really, really early. Cobee would have been gone before the transfer portal even opened. He already would have committed to a school. There would have been a lot of tampering going on. So, a bunch of respect to Cobee. Again, I look at it like a 2A, 2B kind of situation.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I look at it with like how I was talking about on the list, and even with before my Wi-Fi wanted to hate itself of Monday, like even with offensive lineman Kelvin Banks, best pure tackle, and then everything else after was kind of like swing guard or whatever, can play or like has played multiple positions, and that's kind of been the same thing with their corners here. Shavon Revel, you and I have him as best pure. Jahdae Barron, we've all stated he can play anywhere on the field, and then Cobee Bryant's like a 2A.
Yeah,
I had Revel above Barron for the longest time, and then when we really looked at the tape, and even going back to previous seasons when Barron played at the slot, when he played as a safety, for me, the versatility and the quality that he brings at each position just puts him at number one for me. Because he is someone who you can draft as an outside corner, right? Who's going to be extremely athletic. He's going to be a very sound tackler because of because of his experience in the slot and at safety. But he's also, he's going to bring elite ball production, which is extremely valuable as a corner. And so for me, right, between his versatility and production, not just in terms of, on the ball, breaking up passes, getting interceptions, but also tackling, to me, he's just the best all-around corner in this class.
The versatility, and we've got the film study to show it, but being able to play like any position, especially that star, kind of like with what, the appeal was with Ryan Branch when he came out. Jahdae Barron's got that exact same appeal. So for that, I kind of have him at number 2. I put Shavon there because I think he's the best pure corner in this draft class, but Jahdae Barron, I think, could be the best defensive back in this draft class.
Facts.
If that makes sense.
Facts. And going into Jahdae Barron, I think with the whole Jalen Ramsey news, like,
the Dolphins?
The Dolphins look like a sweeter pick right now if they don't trade.
We even said that when Javon Holland left.
Yeah, that's the talk is that the Dolphins are going to try to trade up and grab Travis Hunter because they're very interested in him. But I think by our list standards, that would be a mistake, right? Jahdae Barron being there for them would be excellent. I think he's going to get chosen in the later parts of the first round. I don't think people have done there as much. I'm not saying NFL teams haven't, but a lot of content creators I hear, they just don't know how good Jahdae Barron is. Like, it's ridiculous. And there's another guy that's on all of our lists that you're going to hear later that played in that same secondary that I didn't really notice was as good. And I'll tell you, that night that we watched his film, I went back and I watched that kid a lot. I'm not going to say his name. If you don't know, we're going to introduce you to him here a little later. But Jahdae Barron's at number 2 because he's got every skill that you want for a corner. And I don't care what you have to do. The reason why there's a number 1 guy on the top of this list is because of this reason right here. Man coverage is where you make your money as a corner. Yes. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. And Jahdae Barron does that really, really well. The only thing that he doesn't do is sometimes he'll let routes go that he should be right on top of. And maybe that was a scheme thing, but the fact that he has enough speed to catch up to the guy and capitalize on his mistake is great. And that's why he's at number 2.
If you want someone who's going to be maybe the best purely in coverage, I have Shavon Revel, right? He comes in here having only played 3 games this past season, but he still managed to have an incredible 14% force incompletion rate, as well as 2 interceptions and 2 pass breakups. and a very respectable 11% missed tackle rate. It's not great, but it is the second best of the 5 on my top 5 list, only behind Jahdae Barron.
Right.
So, even though it was a limited sample size this past season, you can go back to the year before and you see Shavon Revel, popping off the film. He is, very aggressive. He has great length. He's a corner who has a good build for someone who can project to be a top cornerback in this league. The only question mark people have about him is as a result of the injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you bring up the level of competition, but when you look at the teams he played against who are Power 4 opponents, he balls out, right? Like Michigan. So to me, right, a lot of the big question marks around Revel are kind of overblown. And again, I had him as my number 1 cornerback for a long time, so I think very highly of him.
Not a lot of 4 or 5-star guys on the opposite that you would have had with like a Jahdae Barron or Will Johnson at Michigan. With Shavon Revel, yes, the injury, but kind of like how we've been saying, especially Dante the past couple of weeks, with how modern medicine is, or like how good that the modern medicine is, it doesn't really concern me as much, especially when you've seen him like working out, at pro days, combines.
Nick Chubb was just squatting 500 pounds. And he tore the same knee up.
He's broken his leg twice and like is still working out, squatting 600 plus pounds. So I'm not, that doesn't worry me too much about it. We do have the small sample size, but if you look at, watch the sliders. But you look at like last year as well, the production was there. If he was able to if he went last year, he probably could have gone like 2nd or 3rd round. The production is there.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing that you'll see with my list is I'll usually give the number 1 spot to somebody that is the pure, like they are just in that position.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And then after that 2 and everything else will be like rotational players, like with Jahdae Barron. Clay talked about, you got outside, slot, nickel, star, you can put him kind of anywhere. And that's a versatile piece that will definitely guarantee him kind of a 1st-round pick, maybe even over Jahdae Barron, kind of like with just the fact that he's very versatile. That may get him over a couple of some of the other corners.
Shavon Revel is as much as a corner that doesn't have anything that you could say is bad on this guy. The Michigan tape still speaks in volumes of how good this kid can be, because you need games like that if you're playing at smaller schools. Stayed loyal to Eastern Carolina, another guy just like Cobee that could have entered the transfer portal, and schools like Alabama and Georgia were knocking. They wanted him on their team. Imagine Georgia with Shavon Revel.
He would be the consensus number 1 corner.
He might be the number 1 player off the board this year if he would play as good as he was. And that's no cap. Shavon Revel has got a great combination of size, speed, athleticism. The best part of his game is his vision and his ball skills. Like, the instincts of Shavon Revel are on another level. And I don't want to say it's too much like I think Jahdae Barron has that same type of skill set, but I think Shavon's is just, with his size and everything, elevates everything that he can do. The one play, go watch the sliders, the one bat down that he did right in zone coverage, the jump up and snap the ball down from Colston Loveland in that Michigan game. It was like, what the hell? Like, he really made that play? You don't see corners do that. I'm telling you what, there's a lot of NFL teams that are going to pick this guy probably in the middle part of the 1st round, and somebody's eyeballs are going to be like, well, why the hell would you pick him up? He just came off a knee injury. Shut up. Does that team know? And we're going to be cheering that team on. You did the right thing, bro. Whoever it is.
You did good.
Yeah. Your scouting department is elite.